So the Football World Cup is well underway in Qatar. And the reason that I'm doing this video is a lot of what I mentioned in previous videos has played out exactly as expected. We've seen a number of trends that have carried over from previous World Cups. However, in this World Cup, we've seen something new and interesting that presents a great betting and trading opportunity. I've been successfully betting and trading for over 2 decades. If you want more videos like this and you want me to describe more of what I do, then give us a like. If you want to talk to like-minded people, visit the BetAngel forum where you can do exactly that, but also visit our website where you can download a free trial of BetAngel. So the World Cup in Qatar is going pretty much the way that I expected. Most of the stuff that I discussed in a previous video is unfolding right in front of our eyes. However, your role, something you should be doing as a bettor or a trader is you're looking for an edge. And sometimes you find those edges by comparing and contrasting different bits of data. So I'm gathering data on every single match that is taking place at Qatar 2020, and I'm comparing it to previous tournaments. And I'm looking at that and trying to understand if there's anything in particular that has changed. And that could be the way the match is played, and the way things are playing out, the way the market behaves, all of those sort of things. And very often this can be a fruitless task because you look at it and you go, oh yeah, I can beautifully describe exactly why the markets are exactly the same as I have seen before. But you tend to find, especially in most sports, because they can be a little bit political now and again, that rule changes and other things can have an impact. And that's exactly what we're seeing at Qatar 2020. We're seeing a subtle change in the way that the matches are being refereed that is having a significant impact on the way that you can profitably bet or trade on these individual matches. So what is it and what has happened that has significantly changed between the World Cup in 2022 and what we saw in 2018? So when we had the first game at the World Cup, what I'm about to describe wasn't apparent. It only really became apparent from the second match, England's emphatic 6-2 victory over Iran. Now, not only was that unusual, but what we actually saw through the match that was particularly unusual was the incredible amounts of extra time that was added on. In total, we had 29 minutes of added time. I really could not believe my eyes, so much that I actually took a picture of it because I was thinking, well, this is odd. I'm seeing something new and unusual here that I haven't seen before. Was this a record? Is 29 minutes of extra time some sort of a record in terms of the amount of extra time that is being played in a match? And we subsequently learned that FIFA had instructed referees that there was to be no time wasting and that they were going to stop the clock basically as the match, if the ball went out of play during the actual match itself. And that was designed to eliminate time wasting. They wanted to send a message out there that if you wasted time, there was no point because they were just going to add it all back on at the end of the match. And the interesting thing about this was the impact that it would have on how you would basically create a profitable bet or trade. It radically changed the way that you would be expected to trade these markets. To understand why, we just need to simplify it a bit and have a look at some of the data to understand the impact that extra time has had at the World Cup. So how does all this extra time influence the markets? When I saw the extra time go up in the England match, I basically jumped on my phone to have a quick look at what the odds were. I know that's a rather sad thing to do, but I knew exactly what the opportunity was that was going to be in front of me. And I just wanted to check to see whether the market had worked it out or not. Because let us take an example where a match is sort of 0-0 and we're approaching extra time, and then suddenly a large amount of extra time gets bolted on. What will happen to the price of the draw is the price of the draw will absolutely fly out to take account of that extra time because the market thought there was maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then suddenly there's an extra 12 or 10 or however many extra minutes have been added on. The draw has to be repriced, as does the over-under markets and all of these sort of things. But why is that the case? Well, the simple thing is let us imagine that there's a match that takes place over 90 minutes and we're expecting there to be sort of 2.5 goals or something within that particular match, or 3, or whatever you want to throw into that. If the match went on for 3 hours, can you imagine all of a sudden the match is going to last that much longer, and therefore it will definitely have more goals within it. So you can sort of come up with this hypothesis that the longer a match goes on, the more goals are likely to be scored within that particular match. So what have we actually found at the start of the World Cup? Is that true? Have we actually seen, because of the amount of extra time that's been added on, that there are more goals in each individual match? And necessarily, can we quantify that in some way? Well, of course we can, because I've done that already for you. And it really rams home exactly the sort of opportunity that you've got with all of this additional extra time. So I have said previously that really you should expect late goals in a tournament, especially a knockout tournament. And as we progress through the stages, the propensity to score late goals increases. Why? It's fairly logical, really, because it's a do or die situation. The team has to score to stay in the competition, to win, to progress, whatever. They have to score. So you tend to see the market skewed towards late goals. But also, when you look at a knockout tournament, you tend to find that the first half doesn't contain that many goals, and most goals will be scored in the second half, because the first half you just want to get off to a solid start, and then the second half you've got to make something happen at some point or another, and that accentuates as you go through the tournament. But let's stick a number on it, because in 2018, how many goals were scored in extra time? So I'm classifying here extra time as 90 minutes plus, basically. And what I'm looking for is, when was that last goal scored in the match? When did that last goal go in? Was it under 90 minutes or was it over 90 minutes, i.e. in extra time? So in 2018, we saw 35% of matches end with a goal being scored in the 90th minute or more. And remember, this includes matches that ended up 0-0. So this is a very high number. But when we look at 2022, the big thing that's changed here is there is a lot more extra time. So there's a lot more time for a goal to be scored. So you'd expect that number necessarily to rise somewhat. So I've been collecting data as the tournament progresses. And indeed, that is exactly what we have found. We've found the last goal in a match scored at the 70th minute or more occurs, rather bizarrely, 70% of the time so far. These stats will change as the tournament develops. But yeah, 70% of the time, a goal is scored in the 70th minute or more. If we move the clock forward to 80 minutes or more, 63% of the time, a goal is scored after 80 minutes or more. So you can see that's quite a big number as well. But when we look at a goal being scored in extra time, i.e. 90 minutes or more, that's occurring sort of mid to late 40s at this particular moment in time. There are some games that have taken place now, so that may have influenced that statistic somewhat. But yeah, we're sort of seeing, 45 to 50% of the time, we're seeing goals occurring in 90 minutes or more. I think that number will come down a little bit because that seems abnormally high. But fundamentally speaking, we are seeing a lot of late goals. And you can see from the statistics that I've just given you there, that looking for that late goal is an absolutely fantastic tactic. So it could be that the match is a draw and the draw odds are going to come in and come in and come in. You could probably lay the draw very late on in anticipation of a late goal. And that has been occurring pretty frequently. But of course, that is very dependent upon the scoreline. So you may be looking at the goals markets or something like that. But fundamentally speaking, you could get yourself in at pretty crunchy odds, really, in terms of very low liability at this particular stage of a match, and get a potentially huge payoff. And I know that I have done that, and several other people have done it that I've seen already. But that's the predominant trend that we're seeing at the 2022 World Cup. It was unexpected because, most of the statistics we knew were skewed in that favour already. But thanks to the FIFA directive given to the officials to add on time for any element of time wasting or for when the ball is out of play, has really heavily skewed that market massively in one particular direction. As the tournament progresses, maybe the market will begin to catch up with that. But fundamentally speaking, in the first week or so of the tournament, and certainly in the first set of group matches, that has been the dominant characteristic. And if you want to make money at the 2022 World Cup, that has been absolutely the best strategy that you could have pursued so far.